KirTop here, and these are 100 archaeological surprises found by children and random passers-by. Fused gold coins. In the Roman city of Istria, on the western coast of the Black Sea, archaeologists discovered a treasure trove, but in a form that immediately raised alarm. More than 40 coins and metal jewelry were not neatly stacked, but fused together, as if someone had thrown them into a furnace. It later became clear the hoard had perished in a fire almost 2,000 years ago, along with the house in which it was stored. The fire was so intense that the metals melted and solidified, preserving the shape of a wooden box, long since vanished. The coins themselves, however, remained recognizable, round with discernible contours. This is a rare case where a catastrophe did not destroy a find, but literally preserved a moment of life. The house where the hoard was discovered was far from poor. Stone paving stones, painted walls, high-quality ceramics all point to a wealthy family. Archaeologists speculate that the owner either didn't have time to save the valuables or simply didn't expect the fire to destroy everything in a matter of hours. Istria was an important city of the Roman Empire during the Principate, but even here, people lived with a sense of instability. The treasure, simultaneously hidden and lost, shows how fragile was the order that we used to think of as strong. A buried Ferrari. In the backyard of an ordinary Los Angeles home buried beneath a layer of earth was not a hoard of gold coins, ancient tools, or the remains of old machinery, but a nearly new Ferrari Dyno 246 GTS. The car was buried just a few dozen centimeters deep, carefully wrapped in plastic and with all openings plugged with towels, as if it was intended to be preserved rather than hidden. Detectives expected to find bodies or drugs inside, but the interior was empty. Only the traces of time and perfectly preserved parts of the sports car. A license plate check revealed that the Ferrari had been stolen 3 years earlier. The owner collected the insurance and the case was closed. But why bury such a car? One of the detectives later admitted there were no kids who accidentally found the car. An informant had told them where to dig, hoping to secure a deal. The investigation revealed that the thieves were supposed to sink the car in the ocean, but they liked it so much that they decided to hide it and return later. But as we've already learned, they never returned. The insurance company sold the excavated car at a closed auction, and the new owner completely restored it. Ancient tomb. Hidden in the shadow of the blue doors of an ancient Ming Dynasty tomb in China was a mystery for centuries. Having opened the gates, archaeologists encountered an extraordinary luxurious tomb from 400 years ago. The tomb, found during preparations for the construction of a highway in Shaanxi province, is impressive in its preservation and sophistication of execution. Researchers have confirmed that the tomb, dating back to the Ming era, contained nobles. 2 luxurious wooden coffins with exquisite patterns and porcelain vessels indicate the high status of the deceased. Epitaphs hint at noble origins, and magnificently decorated coffers indicate a connection with the royal court. The finds include furniture, writing instruments, and artistic objects, highlighting the sophisticated lifestyle of the elite of the time. Despite many hypotheses, the exact reasons for the opulence and purpose of the tomb remain unknown, adding mystery to the history of the Ming Dynasty, a period of flourishing culture, art, and science in China. Dr. Zippermeyer's vortex and sonic cannons. Official history claims that tanks and aircraft decided the outcome of World War II, but a look into the classified files of the Allied Intelligence Agency CIOS, Combined Intelligence Objectives Subcommittee, reveals a different picture. In 1945, American experts scouring the foothills of the Austrian Alps in the town of Lofer stumbled upon a laboratory that looked more like the set of a mad scientist movie about the future. Dr. Mario Zippermeyer worked there, a man who planned to win the war using the laws of aerodynamics and acoustics. His crown jewel was the Werbel Kanone, the vortex cannon. This wasn't just a tube of gunpowder, it was a complex engineering device approximately 10 meters long. Its operating principle was based on the creation of an artificial toroidal vortex, a powerful ring of compressed air capable of maintaining its shape and destructive force while in motion. Oxygen and acetylene were mixed under enormous pressure in a special combustion chamber. After detonation, the shockwave passed through a calibrated nozzle, transforming into an air fist. To make this vortex deadly for aircraft, Zippermeyer proposed adding finely dispersed coal dust to the mixture. During tests in Lofer, this device, in front of senior SS officers, reduced thick wooden shields to splinters at a range of 150 meters. The designer envisioned such cannons defending German cities. The vortex, entering the engine area of a B-17 bomber, was intended to cause an instantaneous pressure drop, literally tearing off the aircraft's wings or detonating the fuel tanks. The project was stalled only because the air density changed at an altitude of 3,000 meters, causing the vortex to become unstable. However, U.S. intelligence documents, Report number 216, state that the destructive potential of this device deserves the most careful study by Pentagon specialists. But Zippermeyer wasn't the only master of the elements. At the same secret center, Dr. Richard Wlauschek was developing the Schallkanone, the sound cannon. This was a colossal parabolic antenna 3 meters 20 centimeters in diameter. At its focal point was a combustion chamber, into which methane and oxygen were injected under pressure. The device produced up to 50 micro-explosions per second. The sound frequency was specially selected to resonate with human internal organs. According to test reports, the effect was terrifying. At a distance of up to 60 meters, the sound caused instant loss of consciousness, convulsions, and death due to resonant rupture of liver and kidney tissue. At a distance of 200 meters, enemy soldiers began to experience uncontrollable panic attacks, dizziness, and auditory fatigue, rendering them completely incapacitated. Wlauschek insisted on the creation of mobile installations based on the Panther tank chassis to burn away enemy defenses with an invisible wall of sound. Why didn't this weapon appear on the front lines? Only because of bureaucracy and fuel shortages in late 1944. After the war, Wlauschek and Zippermeyer's installations were dismantled and transported to the United States as part of Operation Paperclip. These developments were long considered a hoax until blueprints were declassified in the 1990s, confirming that the Nazis were one step away from transforming the planet's atmosphere into a deadly weapon. But while some Reich scientists were trying to harness the physics of the atmosphere, others, from the mystical Ahnenerbe, sought power in objects that never belonged to Earth. In 1938, they traveled to the roof of the world, Tibet, to bring back something created from a fallen star. Fragment of the multiplication table. An archaeological discovery made in the city of Jingzhou in the Chinese province of Hubei turned out to be a real discovery for the history of mathematics. In one of the ancient tombs, which is more than 2,300 years old, thousands of bamboo sheets were found, on which records related to mathematics, literature, medicine, and animal husbandry were recorded. These sheets, used for writing before the invention of paper, contain more than 30,000 characters. One of the most significant discoveries were fragments containing the oldest known multiplication table. The bamboo texts demonstrate basic mathematical operations. 5 times 7 equals 35, 4 times 7 equals 28, 3 times 7 equals 21. These cheat sheets date from the Warring States period, which preceded the unification of China under Emperor Qin Shi Huang and the founding of the Qin Dynasty. Unusual lead coffin. In northern Britain, archaeologists have discovered the skeleton of a late Roman aristocrat in a lead coffin, as well as the remains of more than 60 men, women, and children who lived in the region more than 1,000 years ago. The discovery could shed light on one of the key periods in British history, as researchers found representatives from both late Roman and early Saxon times with different burial customs. The discovery was made in Leeds at a site discovered last year near Garforth. The location of the cemetery is kept secret to protect against looters. The cemetery was discovered last spring near the site where late Roman stone buildings and structures in the Anglo-Saxon style had previously been found. Among the finds in the cemetery were burials containing individual objects such as knives and pottery, indicating early Christian beliefs and Saxon burial customs. Chemical tests can reveal details about the origins and diet of those buried. Once the analyses are completed, the lead coffin is planned to be displayed at Leeds Museum as part of an exhibition on burial customs around the world. Amulet with a phallus. In Gela, Sicily, archaeologists stumbled upon an object that is difficult to imagine being used. A small bone stylus, just 13 centimeters long, lay in a cultural layer dating back to the 5th century BC. Such objects were typically used by potters to draw lines in wet clay. But this one was clearly not made for clay-stained hands. The stylus is carved from bone and decorated in a way that begs to be examined, not used. At the top is a male head, which researchers associate with Dionysus. Below is a phallic symbol carved without any hints or embarrassment. Today, such an object would be hidden in a box marked 18+, but for the ancient Greeks, there was nothing forbidden about it. It was a language of protection and fertility, understood without words. Such images were kept in homes, workshops, and at entrances. They served as amulets and as a plea for the favor of the powers that determined the outcome of labor. The material itself reveals much about the object's purpose. Bone is fragile, the carving too fine to be in constant contact with wet clay. This stylus didn't scratch the mold, it protected the process. It was likely kept somewhere in the workshop within easy reach but not in use. Gold of the steppe elite. In the mountains of southeastern Kazakhstan, archaeologists have uncovered burial mounds that had long been overlooked by major research. The Zhetasu region was known for its rich collection of monuments, but these burials had attracted little attention until recent excavations. Beneath layers of earth were graves belonging to the Saka elite from the 4th to 3rd centuries BC. Inside, gold jewelry, earrings, beads, bronze pins, and rare objects with distinct symbolism were found. One of these was a bone artifact in the shape of a serpent dragon. Its purpose is unclear, but researchers believe it was associated with spiritual beliefs and protection. Gold was used here not as a display of wealth, but as a sign of status and belonging to a certain circle. Particularly noteworthy was the double burial of a woman and a child. Gold earrings were found next to the child's skull. The child was approximately 3 years old. This prompted archaeologists to consider how early status could have been assigned and transmitted by birth. One of the burial mounds was 40 meters in diameter and 4 meters high. The scale of the work and the quality of the artifacts indicate that we are not dealing with disparate tribes, but with a society with a clear hierarchy, rituals, and notions of power that extended far beyond the lifetime of a single generation. Europe's first prayer. German archaeologists have reported a discovery that has changed our understanding of the spread of Christianity in Europe. In 2018, during excavations at an ancient Roman cemetery in the Frankfurt suburbs on the site of the former town of Nida, they discovered a small silver amulet. It was placed under the chin of a man buried between 230 and 270 AD and was apparently hung from his neck as a personal amulet. The amulet consisted of a rolled-up, ultra-thin strip of silver foil, just 3.5 centimeters long, on which text had been engraved during the owner's lifetime. For a long time, scientists were unable to decipher the inscription. The metal was too brittle and the scroll too tightly rolled. Only in 2024, using computed tomography and 3D modeling at the Mainz Institute of Archaeology, were 18 lines of Latin text reconstructed. It contains the phrases, "Holy, holy, holy, in the name of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and before Christ, all knees bow, those in heaven, those on earth, and those beneath the earth." These words, characteristic of Christian liturgy, have not previously appeared in artifacts of such an early period. The inscription mentions Saint Titus, a disciple of the Apostle Paul, making the amulet one of the first testimonies of the Christian tradition outside of Italy. It is the oldest confirmed Christian text found north of the Alps. The Third Reich's sun gun. If you thought the concept of orbital weapons was an invention of the Star Wars and Ronald Reagan era, then archives from 1945 will change your mind. When American rocketry experts entered the research center in Oberpfaffenhofen, they discovered a folder of calculations that they initially dismissed as pure science fiction. It was the Sonnengewehr project, the sun gun. The idea belonged to the eminent physicist Hermann Oberth, a man who essentially stood at the origins of global rocketry. In 1943, the Nazi leadership, realizing that the war could not be won by conventional means, gave the go-ahead for the most ambitious project in human history, launching a giant mirror into orbit to incinerate entire megacities. Reich engineers calculated that a concave mirror with an area of 3 square kilometers would be deployed at an altitude of 8,200 kilometers above Earth. The material was planned to be pure sodium, a lightweight metal with incredible reflectivity. The mirror was to be more than just a piece of metal, but a controllable spacecraft. The structure would house living quarters for the crew, sealed oxygen-producing gardens, and solar panels. Using directional rocket engines, the mirror would focus the sun's rays into a narrow beam several dozen meters in diameter. According to Oberth's calculations, the temperature at the beam's focal point would reach several thousand degrees. This is enough to vaporize a reservoir in a matter of seconds, reduce a major industrial center to ashes, or literally boil the ocean in the vicinity of an enemy fleet. It was the perfect clean weapon. No radiation contamination, only the incinerating power of the sun, which was impossible to resist. Why was the project never realized? According to the Germans themselves, building and launching such a colossus would require at least 15 years and a massive amount of resources. But the very fact that the Nazis seriously discussed the budget and technical stages of assembling a mirror in orbit suggests that their science had advanced far beyond the comprehension of their contemporaries. After the war, American intelligence agencies confirmed the viability of this idea, but declared it technically unachievable in the 1940s. However, the question remains, did these plans become the basis for today's secret development of laser weapons in space? The Reich's space ambitions were grandiose, but the real secrets were kept not only above our heads, but also deep beneath our feet. While some gazed at the stars, others built underground cities with technologies that official science still calls impossible. England's oldest scientific instrument. Discovered in England, a palm-sized copper quadrant dating back to 1311 was used to tell time. This artifact is 15 years older than Chaucer's famous astrolabe from the British Museum. Researchers point to the rarity of medieval English instruments and their importance for scientific understanding of the era. The device is estimated at $130,000, $190,000. $190,000. It is being offered at auction along with valuable books, manuscripts, and a 17th century silver microscope made by Antony van Leeuwenhoek. Quadrants are believed to have come to Europe from Muslim Spain at the end of the 13th century. In these devices, daytime was divided into 12 hours, the duration of which varied depending on the season and latitude of the place. The first hour began at dawn. Noon occurred at the end of the 6th hour and sunset at the end of the 12th. This made summer hours longer than winter ones. Quadrants were the tools of traders, clergy, and students. It is known that Queen Isabella, wife of Edward II, received several of these devices as a gift in 1358. Quadrant determined the time of day by the altitude of the sun using a trigonometric formula that was accurate at the equator. Despite the errors, the device was useful not only for determining time, but also for solving mathematical problems related to measuring distances and heights. With colored masks and golden tongues. In the historical area of Al-Banasa in Egypt, a team of Spanish archaeologists, led by Dr. Maite Mascoro and Dr. Esther Pons Malado from the University of Barcelona, made a significant discovery. Scientists have discovered ancient rock-cut tombs, as well as a number of valuable artifacts, allowing for a more in-depth study of the history of this region. A team of archaeologists has found tombs that date back to the Ptolemaic and Roman eras, revealing a unique burial method. One of the most amazing finds are terracotta statues of Isis Aphrodite, decorated with crowns of leaves, which are an important addition to the study of the art of that era. The excavations also uncovered Roman-era mummies adorned with gilded and colored funerary masks. An interesting feature was the discovery of golden tongues in the mouths of some mummies, which indicates ancient burial customs designed to keep the deceased capable of conversation in the afterlife. Adel Lokasa, head of the Central Authority of Antiquities of Middle Egypt, stressed the importance of finding a ruined building with unique designs depicting plants, vines, and animals. These images provide valuable insight into the culture and life in Albanus in ancient times. Lost Bible Translation Fragment. Austrian scientists have made a remarkable discovery in the Vatican Library, a new chapter of the Bible and a translation of the Gospel of Matthew dating back to 1750. The text, invisible to the naked eye, was discovered using ultraviolet photography. The discovery was part of a research project aimed at recovering texts erased or rewritten by scribes between the 4th and 12th centuries AD. Manuscripts of this kind, called palimpsests, were created repeatedly on already used material. This was due to a shortage of writing materials. With the help of ultraviolet light, it was possible to reveal the lost texts. Among the 74 manuscripts recovered was one particularly valuable, an ancient version of the Bible, 100 years older than the earliest Greek translations, including the Codex Sinaiticus. The New Text expands on the famous verse about Jesus' disciples plucking the ears of corn and adding they rubbed them in their hands and ate them. This discovery is an important contribution to the understanding of ancient Syriac texts and the study of ancient writing. The mystery of Japanese figurines. Mysticism reigns around the ancient art of Japan, especially among Western scholars. What is the meaning of the small, alien-like, adorable clay figurines called dogu found within the prehistoric Jomon period? Why do dog have such similar traits despite the diversity of masters and regions? And how can we give meaning to works created by people with whom we have no opportunity to communicate? They have been discovered mainly in Western Japan since the 17th century and have a unique appearance. To modern humans, they may appear alien-like due to their bulging eyes and exaggerated proportions, but they are assumed to depict humanoid, likely female figures with wide hips and feminine breasts. Archaeologists and cultural scientists are still not sure of the exact purpose of dogu in ancient society. There is an assumption that the figurine served as an assistant during childbirth or a symbol of fertility. These similarities between dog and fertility figurines from other cultures suggest that they probably symbolize the pregnant female body. The Jomon period spans a vast period of time and includes various stages from early to late, each characterized by its own unique features in the making of pottery and the use of dogu for shamanistic or ritual purposes. In modern Japan, dogu have taken on new life, becoming icons in video games and pop culture, demonstrating their influence far beyond the historical Jomon period and expanding their presence into the modern world where they are embodied in various artistic and cultural forms. Rare coin in Jerusalem. Israeli archaeologists, during excavations near Jerusalem, discovered a unique artifact, part of an ancient silver coin, the age of which is estimated at 2550 years. This find represents one of only 6 coins of this type found in Israel. The coin belongs to a group of very early coins minted in the 6th-5th centuries BC outside Israel in ancient Greece, Cyprus, and Turkey. This artifact was created in an era when coins were just beginning to be used, and its discovery provides important information about the transition from the weighing of silver to the use of coins as a means of payment. The coin discovered was deliberately cut in two, indicating that it was used as a weighted piece of silver in the 4th century BC. Although coins were already in circulation at that time. One side of the coin shows a pattern made with a square die. This suggests that coins with raised images appeared later thanks to the development of more complex minting technologies. Reliefs of images of gods. In the city of Esna, Egypt, stands an ancient temple dedicated to the god Khnum and his family. Recent restoration work has revealed impressive reliefs revealing images of the gods and starry skies of the ancient Egyptians. Over the past years, this temple, which was a key religious center during the Ptolemaic era, has attracted the attention of scientists. Since 2018, restoration work has been underway here, thanks to which a unique image was discovered on the roof of the temple, demonstrating ancient Egyptian ideas about space. One of the most striking reliefs is the image of the sky goddess Nut. Her figure, curved in the shape of the sky, illustrates the myth of how she absorbs the sun every night in order to give birth to it anew the next day. This representation symbolizes the eternal rebirth and movement of the sun across the sky. An image of the god Thoth and the sun god Khnum-Ra was also found, along with symbols such as snakes, birds, and crocodiles with unusual heads, demonstrating the deep symbolism and mythology of the ancient Egyptians. These reliefs serve as a bridge between our past and present, recalling how people have always been fascinated by the skies and sought answers to their questions by looking at the stars. Mermaid from India. Not many people have heard of the archaeological site of Chandraketugarh in India, which is located about 35 kilometers from Kolkata. Chandraketugarh was a prosperous port city involved in international trade where people lived since 400 BC before 1250 AD. Today, only the ruins of a brick Buddhist temple from the 10th century remain on this site. Interest in Chandraketugarh arose due to the many terracotta artifacts dating back to the Shunga period, that is 200–100 BC. Most of them were stolen and taken abroad, and only a few fragments survived in Indian museums. Although the complex was discovered in 1906, the Archaeological Survey of India, under British control, did not carry out excavations here. Many of the stolen items are now in museums around the world, such as the Metropolitan. Two terracotta plates depict a mermaid, a rather rare image in Indian culture. In one, a mermaid swims by a lake, holding something that looks like a mirror or a flower. People on the shore look at her as if she was a miracle. The great chief arrived in a chariot to see this creature. On another, a mermaid was caught in a net by fishermen. People wave at her and she answers them without showing any fear. Looking at these reliefs, I wondered, are they not a reflection of ancient legends or real events that took place in Chandraketugarh 2,200 years ago? Perhaps mermaids were not a figment of the imagination, but real sea creatures in ancient times? Write in the comments under the video. Do you believe in the existence of mermaids or something similar? It's no wonder that the depths of the seas and oceans have not yet been explored. Ancient tunnels found near Murmansk. Hidden under the city of Murmansk in Russia is a whole system of ancient tunnels. In winter, the entrance to the tunnels turns into a crystal ice kingdom. Rumor has it that these catacombs stretch for tens of kilometers and the height of the ceilings in them reaches up to 12 meters. And what is interesting, they have been known for a long time. They are mentioned even in the text of the 16th century. These tunnels, according to legend, belong to the ancient magical people of the Chakli. They knew all the secrets of the land and the extraction of valuable stones, helped the locals, and, according to rumors, disappeared underground without accepting the new rules of life. Sacrifice in Germany. Fertility rites were performed in Germany 4,800 years ago, and today we already know that they sacrificed. In Halberstadt, archaeologists found a well with the skeletons of various animals, bulls, dogs, and hares. This happened a long time ago, at a time when people lived among nature and appreciated it. They wanted the land to be fertile. They loved everything that surrounded them. And most importantly, they believed that if animals were sacrificed, the gods would help them and the harvest would be good. The well belonged to an ancient culture that originated in the lands of modern Poland and then moved to Germany. Scientists think that people dug a well specifically for these rites. First, the bones of 4 bulls were found in the well, and then whole skeletons, a dog, hares, and another bull. This suggests that people already knew how to breed animals. Hares, which were also sacrificed, are considered very prolific. Hares and rabbits can produce offspring several times a year. This once again confirms that the well was used for fertility rites, and next to the well, archaeologists found a stone tomb. Perhaps someone important from this ancient society was buried there. The Thames Shield. In 1919, during construction work near the banks of the Thames in London, an object was discovered that immediately made headlines. It was a shield, not bronze, not iron, but made of wood. It was approximately 2,400 years old. This was a surprise. It was thought that wooden shields simply couldn't survive that long, especially in river sediments. The shield turned out to be made of willow strips bound together with leather and a thin layer of dyed limestone. The surface is decorated with red and black ornamentation, concentric circles typical of Celtic art. In the center is a convex boss, the core that protected the hand. Signs of repair are visible around it. Traces of staples, patches, and resin drips remain on the wood. Everything suggests that the item was not decorative but used for combat. For archaeologists, the find was a revelation. Until now, it was believed that Iron Age warriors in Britain used only bronze or metal shields. Wooden shields were mentioned in sources, but there was no direct evidence. Now they exist, and in excellent condition. Researchers note that the shield's design was ingenious, lightweight, strong, and resilient. It was ideal for close combat. Laboratory tests showed that it withstood powerful blows, and its shape helped dissipate the energy. Samurai treasure. Not far from Tokyo, the largest treasure trove of antique coins in Japanese history was discovered. The treasure is kept in a huge clay pot, which is now on display in Kumagaya at the Saitama Prefectural Cultural Treasury, that is, the National Museum. The historical treasure of bronze coins not only reveals new historical data, but also serves as evidence of the natural chemical processes of time. The copper in their bronze alloy has oxidized over the past 400 years, causing the coins to take on a bright green hue due to a patina similar to that covering the Statue of Liberty. The clay pot of coins, which is more than half a meter wide, was likely buried hundreds of years ago. It was discovered by archaeologists last year in ruins that were the site of a medieval samurai pavilion. The coins date back to the 15th century during the Ming Dynasty in China. Coins from the Tang Dynasty, 7th century, were also found at the same excavation site. They are associated with Chinese dynasties because Japan was one of the last great civilizations to adopt its own coin system. The coins were held together on ropes passing through holes, and each rope contained 1,000 coins. The standard of the time was one string of 1,000 bronze coins, equal to 1 ounce of silver. This knowledge of the historical period allowed archaeologists to estimate the number of coins without removing them from the giant pot. The number 260 inches was engraved on its lid. This coin hoard represented a huge fortune in 15th and 16th century Japan. For this money, one could buy enough rice to feed 500 people for a year. The underground city of cement. In 1944, as Allied air forces reduced German cities to rubble, the Third Reich's leadership decided to move critical technologies underground. Thus was born Project Quarz, better known by its code name Cement. The setting was the Austrian town of Roggendorf. At first glance, it seemed like a factory producing aircraft bearings for Steyr Daimler Puch. But when Soviet and American reconnaissance teams entered these tunnels in May 1945, they realized that more than just aircraft parts were being manufactured here. The underground complex Cement consists of over 10 kilometers of tunnels cut into solid rock at depths of up to 50 meters. More than 15,000 concentration camp prisoners were forced to work on its construction. But it's not the size that is shocking, but what they discovered inside. In some halls, the ceilings reached 15 meters and the walls were covered with a complex shielding system. Reports by the Soviet Technical Commission mentioned strange objects that were completely out of keeping with the concept of a typical machine-building plant. These include gigantic vacuum chambers and massive ceramic insulators designed to handle extremely high voltages. Why would a bearing factory need vacuum units of such a size? There are theories, partially supported by declassified Ahnenerbe documents, that the cement facility was a cover for research in high-frequency physics and plasma technologies. Some researchers believe the Nazis were attempting to create an isotope separation facility or powerful emitters capable of remotely disabling the electronics of enemy bombers. The strangest thing happened after the war. Most of the equipment was dismantled and transported to the USSR as part of the looted equipment program, but the specifications for this equipment remain in closed archives. Moreover, part of the lower levels of the cement facility was deliberately blown up and flooded by the SS themselves before their retreat. For years, local residents of Roggendorf spoke of strange hums emanating from underground and of convoys of trucks transporting not machine tools, but strange lead containers into the tunnels. What exactly were the Nazis trying to hide in the flooded levels of the cement facility? Was it a primitive attempt to create an atomic bomb or something more exotic, involving the manipulation of vacuum energy? The answers still lie buried beneath millions of tons of concrete and water. But if the underground factories were a triumph of engineering, the ideology behind them bordered on madness. Nazi scientists believed that the fate of the war depended not on the number of tanks, but on how closely they followed the ancient world ice theory. Why was butter buried in a bog? In the peat bogs of Ireland and Scotland, archaeologists regularly find strange hoards, barrels and bundles of butter. They are hundreds and even thousands of years old. The butter doesn't look like food, but rather like a dense, dark mass with a pungent odor. And each time, the same question arises. Why did people voluntarily bury such a valuable product in a bog? For a long time, it was believed that these were ritual sacrifices. Bogs in northern Europe were often used for offerings to the gods, with weapons, jewelry, and even people thrown into them. Butter, a symbol of wealth and prosperity, was perfectly suitable for such rituals. But the problem is that there are too many finds. Over the past 200 years, more than 400 cases have been documented. For a rare ritual, this is suspiciously frequent. Later, another theory emerged, a practical one. Peat bogs are almost devoid of oxygen and rich in acids. In such an environment, bacteria that cause decay are practically inactive. Experiments have shown that meat and fat stored in peat for several months have pathogen levels comparable to those found in a modern freezer. For people of the Bronze and Iron Ages, this was the ideal natural refrigerator. But even here, not everything fits. Some barrels were buried too deeply and carefully, as if they were never intended to be removed. A third hypothesis emerged: fermentation. Buried butter changed its composition, taste, and aroma. Modern tasters described it as having mushroom and smoky notes. In other words, the bog could have served as a storage facility, a laboratory, and a sanctuary all at once. And each new barrel leaves the question open. Was it buried to preserve, to transform, or to give away forever? Archer's Ring. In ancient Hasankeyf, in what is now southeastern Turkey, archaeologists have discovered a rare object associated with power in the court. It's an archer's thumb ring, crafted from ivory and decorated with pearls, turquoise, and silver. Such rings protected the hand during archery, but this particular example clearly served more than just a practical purpose. The find was discovered in the southeastern part of the Great Palace, a complex associated with the ruling elite of the Archaeological dynasty, which controlled the region in the 12th and 13th centuries. The material speaks for itself. Ivory was expensive and difficult to obtain, pearls and turquoise required trade, and the silver inlays were precision crafted. This is neither a training tool nor field equipment. In medieval Islamic and Turkic traditions, archery was part of court culture. It was associated with discipline, nobility, and the right to rule. Decorated rings were worn during ceremonies and public appearances, where every element of clothing was considered a status symbol. Until now, archaeologists have not found a similar pearl-encrusted archer's ring. Jade mask. Archaeologists have made an important discovery in the dense rainforests of Guatemala in a place called Xochcutam. They discovered a woven jade mask believed to have belonged to an unknown Mayan king who lived about 1700 years ago. This find may shed light on Mayan religious devotion and royal succession during the early Classic period. It also supports the hypothesis that members of the Maya royal families may have been enslaved by more powerful Mesoamerican dynasties. In addition to the mask, archaeologists found a skull, teeth, a skull-shaped stone box, and numerous offerings at Xochcutam, including shells, bones, and shiny pieces of jade. Alexander Tokovinin, an expert in Mayan epigraphy, helped decipher the glyphs on the bones and identified the human remains as the Itzam ruler Kokai Balam. And the deity depicted on the mask turned out to be Yax Wayab Chakak. He is the incarnation of the Maya god of storms. Ocean Ghost. In late November 1896, two boys were riding bicycles along the beach of Anastasia Island when they suddenly saw something in the sand that made them abandon their bikes. A boat-sized carcass lay on the shore, shapeless, pale pink, as if cast from rubber. No bones, no eyes, no head, just a huge, dense lump of flesh that looked as if the ocean had washed ashore a creature from a nightmare. A local physician, Dr. Webb, arrived on the scene the next morning and immediately realized it wasn't a whale. But what then? The carcass was elastic, heavy, and, by his estimate, weighed nearly 5 tons. He concluded that it was a gigantic octopus, unknown to science. Later, photographs were sent to the university, and Professor Verrill, a leading expert on cephalopods, initially confirmed the suspicion. Then he went further and named the creature a new species, Octopus giganteus. The carcass was towed from the water by 6 horses to prevent it from being washed away by the waves. It became a local sensation. People flocked to see the Florida monster, seemingly straight out of the pages of maritime legend. But decades later, when the preserved tissue samples were examined under an electron microscope, everything came crashing down. There was no giant octopus. The tissue consisted of pure collagen. It was whale skin, decomposed to the point where both shape and bone had been lost. Today, scientists call such finds globsters, dense clumps of organic matter that the ocean washes ashore, transforming an ordinary carcass into something resembling a mythical monster. Ghost radars. On the shore, it looks like just a circle of concrete in the grass. Come closer and you'll see threaded pins sticking out of the circle, wounds from cable ducts running around the perimeter, and nearby is the square foundation of a small house. This isn't a rural warehouse site. Freya stood here, an early warning radar that spotted aircraft far above the North Sea. A little further away, you'll see another trace, a massive ring with 4 ears for mountings and a heavy cable entry. This is the site of the Würzburg, an anti-aircraft gun guidance radar. 2 circles, and a piece of the air war comes to life before your eyes. These dots stretch in a chain along the coast and around towns. In some places, only slabs and rusty rebar remain. In others, the concrete ears for the mast trusses are still visible. The pattern is always recognizable: an antenna circle, a cable trench leading to the distribution system, a generator foundation, and sometimes a low communications bunker. If you encounter an elongated rectangle with a cluster of anchor holes, it could be a Wassermann, a tall lattice mast. And if you find the trace of an unusual pie with several tiers of fastenings, remember the Jagdschloss, a 360-degree radar capable of drawing a panorama of the entire sky. At one site near the shore, charred ceramic insulators and fragments of thick fabric-sheathed cables were found, meaning a powerful station was in operation, and upon retreat, everything was blown up. In the forest, far from the sea, you encounter a different set of structures: a neat round slab and next to it a long, narrow foundation for a crew cabin. This is a typical pairing for an anti-aircraft battery. The Würzburg provided precise coordinates, and the battery laid fire where the antenna pointed. The real fun begins when you connect these spots into a defensive line. An early warning radar picks up a target and transmits it to the sector where a night fighter is on duty. A searchlight grove awaits guidance. An operator from a Himmelbett, the name given to the system's cells, where everything is woven into a single hub, radar, searchlights, fighters, anti-aircraft guns, works with the pilot. Little remains of this complex system on the ground: circles, ditches, small bunkers. This, it turns out, is enough to understand how exactly the skies were monitored here. There are also paradoxes. Sometimes a circle stands, but the surrounding area is empty. This means the station was relocated, the mast removed, and the anchor plate remains as a footprint. The opposite can also happen. The circle is destroyed, but the communication booth with cable entries remains. From such small structures, it is possible to reconstruct the routes of the lines. Camouflage elements are also found. In the nearby embankment are pieces of netting, hooks for false structures. Places like these clearly explain why the Allies sometimes missed their targets. The photographs show a farm, but the real antenna has already been removed and moved to a backup site. There are only 2 of these in the world. In eastern Hungary, near Debrecen, archaeologists have discovered a rare burial from the 7th century, an Avar warrior completely dressed in plate armor. The discovery was one of only 2 such finds in the world, demonstrating the luxury and power of military equipment of the Avars, who migrated to the Pannonian Plain from the Asian steppes in the 6th century. The armor, consisting of hundreds of interconnected metal plates, stands out for its excellent preservation and is a key element of the burial kit. The find represents a valuable source of data on the military traditions and burial customs of the Avars, who dominated the region for more than 250 years. Also notable is the method of extracting the burial set in one block, which is rare for archaeological excavations. This unique find opens up new horizons for understanding the culture and military art of the Avar people. Obsidian mirror. Ancient civilizations in Mexico used obsidian mirrors or tezcatls as divination tools. Looking into the depths of the mirror, the sorcerers were transported to the world of gods and ancestors. Obsidian mirrors can be seen as a metaphor for the images of ancient Mexican monuments. They reflect not only the object, but also the person looking. The main accessory of the supreme Aztec god Tezcatlipoca is an obsidian mirror. His name translates to smoking mirror. He is often depicted with a mirror on his chest, wearing jewelry, or in place of his right leg. Tezcatlipoca was the ruler of the night and its creatures, primarily the jaguar, which, according to beliefs, could move between the earthly and underground worlds. In 1969, American artist Robert Smithson visited Mayan ruins, following the path of writer John Lloyd Stevens. Despite traveling through Mayan territory, Smithson claimed to embody Tezcatlipoca. This experience inspired him to create a piece of art in which he used mirrors to illustrate time travel. In the early 20th century in Mexico City, Augustus Genin, a Mexican collector of French origin, amassed an extensive collection of pre-Columbian artifacts. Ancient Mexican mirrors from his collection survive to this day in various shapes and sizes. Sometimes they were reused, inserted into Christian crosses, or as symbols of vanity. 18th century ice bath. Under the meeting halls of the English town of Bath, archaeologists have found a unique ice bath from the 18th century. This rare find may be one of a kind and is becoming a key focus for scientific research. Ice baths have been used for centuries for their therapeutic properties. Even the ancient Romans enjoyed the coolness in the frigidarium. In the 18th century, doctors also recommended them as a method of treating various diseases. At this time in England, meeting halls served as entertainment centers, especially in resort places like Bath. Although cold baths were popular in private residences, the discovered bath was presumably intended for those seeking a more refined and private way to relax. The bathtub itself is installed in the central part of the 3 rooms located below the ballroom and is surrounded by wardrobes. The construction of the meeting halls dates back to 1771, and guidebooks from that era already mentioned the cold bath, changing rooms, and games rooms. These records directed scientists to the trace of the ancient structure, although they did not have an exact idea of its appearance until the moment of discovery. The Tibetan Iron Man. While physicists in Lofer were trying to tame sound, ideologists from the Reich's most secretive agency, the Ahnenerbe, were looking not to laboratories but into the depths of time and into the abyss of space. Himmler was obsessed with the idea that the origins of the Aryan race were hidden on the roof of the world in Tibet. In 1938, a top-secret expedition led by SS Sturmbannführer Ernst Schäfer was sent there. Officially, it was to study the flora and fauna, but the real goal was hidden in the instructions of anthropologist Bruno Beger, to find evidence of the existence of a superior race and artifacts from the legendary Shambhala. It was from this expedition that an object was brought back to Berlin that still makes scientists shudder today. It is a small statue weighing about 10 kilograms of the Buddhist deity Vaishravana, which the SS nicknamed the Iron Man. The deity's belly bore a left-facing swastika, a symbol of good fortune for Buddhists, but an undeniable sign of ancient kinship for the Nazis. The statue disappeared immediately after the fall of Berlin and was considered a myth for decades until it resurfaced in a private collection in 2012. The owner authorized analysis, and the results shocked the scientific world. A team of researchers from the University of Stuttgart, led by Elmar Buchner, determined that the statue was not carved from stone or ordinary iron. It was a taxite, a rare form of meteoric iron with an abnormally high content of nickel and cobalt. Chemical analysis revealed that the statue's material was a fragment of the Chinj meteorite, which fell on the border of Siberia and Mongolia approximately 15,000 years ago. The Nazis, unknowingly or conversely fully aware of it, brought to Germany an artifact literally made of star iron. For Himmler, a believer in the world ice theory, which claimed that life on Earth had been brought from outer space in the form of ice blocks infused with metals, this discovery became the Holy Grail. But why did the SS need this meteorite idol? According to interrogations of Ahnenerbe officers, they believed that metals from outer space possessed a specific energy capable of enhancing extrasensory abilities and serving as a key for communication with higher beings. The Iron Man statue was more than just a souvenir. It was studied in secret laboratories as an energy accumulator. Where did the other artifacts from that expedition disappear to? The Schaefer archives mention strange bone texts that supposedly contained instructions on how to control the forces of nature. Today, the Iron Man is recognized as the only human figure carved from a meteorite. But was this the only heavenly key the Nazis removed from Tibet just before the war? Space artifacts were only part of a plan to achieve world domination. If meteorites provided mystical powers, then German engineers planned to use the sun itself as an instrument of absolute destruction. In 1943, in the depths of the rocket centers, a project was born that today would be called the Third Reich's Death Star, a 9th-century warrior family. In Hungary, archaeologists have discovered 3 warrior burials dating from the 920s and 930s. At first glance, they appear to be ordinary graves from the early Middle Ages, but analysis revealed a detail that dramatically changes the picture. All 3 were related in the male line, most likely a father and 2 sons. The grave goods indicate high status. A saber, a bow and quiver, decorated harnesses, silver and gold clothing, and dozens of coins. One of the young men died at 17 or 18 years of age, the other even earlier. The eldest died at around 30. All 3 ate primarily meat, confirming their membership in the military elite. The coins found in the graves originate from northern Italy and date back to the reign of King Berengar. This coincides with the period of Hungarian military campaigns in the West. it is likely that this is where the family obtained their spoils. The burials reflect a stable military lineage associated with origin, campaigns, and power. The weapons, jewelry, and inventory indicate elite membership and participation in long-distance campaigns. The coincidence of dates, patrilineal kinship, and the nature of the burials indicate a family integrated into the military structure of the early state. Gold fallen from a rainbow. In a field near Leipzig, treasure hunter Daniel Fest moved his metal detector along the edge of a freshly plowed field until the device gave a barely audible signal. He expected anything: a shell casing, a ring, a piece of machinery. But what he found was a tiny gold object weighing just 2 grams. After examination, it became clear that it was a quarter-stater minted by the Celts around 2,200 years ago, the oldest gold coin ever found in Saxony. The obverse was adorned with the head of a deer-like animal, huge eyes, simplified antlers, and a rounded forehead. The reverse featured a torque with thickened ends, a star, and a central sphere. These motifs point to northern Bohemia, meaning the coin arrived in the region long before any Celtic power established itself there. Such items were worn as status symbols, amulets, or store-of-value items among the elite. The very fact that the coin was found so far from Celtic territories speaks to the powerful trade ties that stretched across Central Europe long before Rome, and it has an almost fairy tale-like name. Coins of this shape are called rainbow cups, Regenbogenschüsselchen. According to legend, they appeared where a rainbow touched the ground. Farmers found them in their fields after rain, believing the gold had literally fallen from the sky. Earliest depiction of a kiss. Are you ready to dive into the world of a real archaeological detective story? Today, we have a special episode about the oldest kiss in the history of mankind. Yes, you are not mistaken. We are going on a journey to the origins of romance and perhaps even herpes. Do you know where the first kiss in history originated? Researchers from the University of Copenhagen found traces of it in Mesopotamia in the ancient Near East, and that was about 4,500 years ago. Scientists say that people were already practicing kissing back then, and this may even have contributed to the spread of herpes. It sounds a little scary, but it proves that kissing has been an important part of our lives for thousands of years, across cultures and regions. Imagine, guys, in ancient Mesopotamia, people used clay tablets for writing, and some of them described kissing as part of romantic intimacy and friendship. And even our closest relatives, bonobos and chimpanzees, also kiss. Here is your proof that kissing is not just our whim, but the basis of our communication and relationships. That's just interesting. Could the herpes simplex virus be transmitted through these very early kisses? Ancient Mesopotamian medical texts mention a disease that resembles herpes in symptoms. Of course, we can't be 100% sure it's herpes, but the resemblance is amazing. It turns out that both romance and disease connect us with ancient people much more than we could imagine. Aluminum wedge. The Iuta aluminum wedge, also known as the Iuta object, is one of the most mysterious and controversial finds of our time. According to various sources, it was discovered in 1973 in Romania on the banks of the Mureș River under a layer of sand about 10 meters deep next to the bones of a mastodon. The main reason for the conspiracy theories surrounding the Iuta aluminum wedge is that it is made from aluminum, a material unknown to mankind before the 1800s. While the wedge is believed to be around 10,000 years old, the composition of the wedge includes 89% aluminum, 6.2% copper, 1.8% zinc, and other elements. Aluminum production requires temperatures of 1,000 degrees, and mass production began only in 1885. The wedge is covered with a thick layer of oxide, the age of which is estimated at 300–400 years. After the discovery, the object was transferred to the Archaeological Institute of Cluj-Napoca for research, but the dating method was not specified. The basis for the theory of the extraterrestrial origin of the wedge is its aluminum composition. Romanian ufologist Florin Georgita and other researchers consider the wedge to be evidence of extraterrestrial activity in the past. However, there are also scientists who consider the find to be a fake, the purpose of creation and origin of which remain unclear. Since 1995, the Iuta wedge is no longer on public display and is kept in an undisclosed location, although there are photographs confirming its existence. Ancient bridge in England. In England, there is an amazing wooden bridge from the Neolithic period. It is almost 6,000 years old. It's a trail called the Sweet Track that cuts through swampy terrain in the Somerset Levels. It is named after Ray Sweet, who discovered it in 1970. The dating accuracy was determined by the dendrochronology method. Sweet Track was created as a shortcut through the swamp. It was actively used for 10 years, but then it was abandoned, possibly due to rising water levels. Items found along the trail include stone axes, arrows, the remains of a dish, parts of bows, bone hooks, and a fragment of a spoon. The road is about 1.8 kilometers long and connected two Neolithic settlements on opposite sides of the swamp. Today, the Sweet Track is considered to be the oldest known road in England. Surprisingly, the manufacturing technology of such wooden bridges has not changed much over the past millennia. This unique find allows you to learn more about the life of people in the Neolithic era and their methods of transportation. Hitler's ice myth. While scientists around the world relied on quantum physics and the theory of relativity, the leadership of the Third Reich officially proclaimed an Aryan science that today seems utter madness. This was the Welteislehre, WRL, the World Ice Doctrine, created by the Austrian engineer Hans Herberger. This wasn't just a private opinion, it was a state cosmogony, supported by Hitler and Himmler. Herberger claimed that the entire universe was based on ice. According to his theory, millions of years ago, a giant icy planet collided with a huge hot sun, causing a series of explosions that formed our solar system. But the most frightening aspect of this theory wasn't the past, but the future. Herberger believed that the moon was a giant ball of ice, gradually approaching Earth. He taught that several such moons had already fallen to Earth in the planet's history, causing the destruction of civilizations, including Atlantis, and that the Aryan race were surviving gods with superpowers who would return when ice prevailed again. Hitler saw this teaching as an alternative to Einstein's Jewish physics. An entire meteorology department was created within the Ahnenerbe, headed by Herberger's follower Hans Bendorf. The Nazis believed so strongly in the magical connection between ice and fate that it directly influenced the course of World War II. In 1941, when German generals requested weather data to prepare for the winter campaign in the USSR, the official Luftwaffe Weather Service warned of extreme cold. However, the ice prophets from Himmler's headquarters convinced the Führer otherwise. Based on the Herberger doctrine, they predicted an abnormally mild winter, claiming that the icy elements will favor the true Aryans. As a result of this blind faith in pseudoscience, German trains carried summer uniforms to the front, and the lubricants in tanks and aircraft were not designed for temperatures below -5 degrees Celsius, -40 degrees Fahrenheit. When the legendary -40 degrees Celsius, -40 degrees Fahrenheit, frost struck, the Reich soldiers found themselves alone against the very elements they considered their ally. Thousands of frostbite victims, equipment failures, and the fiasco of Operation Typhoon were the direct result of mysticism triumphing over common sense. Interestingly, even after the disaster near Moscow, Hitler did not abandon his theory. Archives contain evidence that the Nazis continued to build meteorological stations in the Arctic, such as the Treasure Hunter Station on Franz Josef Land. But their mission wasn't just to monitor the weather, it was also to search for ancient ice, which supposedly contained the biological memory of the first superhumans. This fanatical belief in ice magic became one of the most fatal delusions in human history, proving that when ideology begins to dictate the laws of physics, civilization is doomed to collapse. Kraken coins. These silver coins were minted in Syracuse, one of the most influential cities of ancient Greece. The octopus on these coins was the symbol of a city that lived by the sea, controlled trade routes, and maintained a strong navy. Syracuse controlled trade routes, ports, and its fleet, and the sea was the main source of its wealth and power. The coins were minted with exceptional attention to detail. Each tentacle is individually crafted, the composition is balanced, and the image is adapted to the shape of the coin. This speaks not only to artistic culture but also to a political message. The coins were intended to inspire respect and trust. These coins circulated widely beyond Sicily, spreading the city's symbolism far beyond its borders. The octopus also had mythological associations, a creature capable of holding, encompassing, and controlling. For a maritime power, it was a clear symbol of influence. A dog burial with a dagger. Archaeologists in southern Sweden have made a discovery that upends our understanding of how animals were treated in the Stone Age. In a marshy area near the now-vanished Lake Långtjåmossen, they found a nearly complete dog skeleton, intentionally buried deep under peat, next to an exquisitely crafted bone dagger approximately 25 centimeters long. The burial dates back to approximately 3,300 to 2,600 BC, meaning it wasn't the random debris of an ancient site, but the deliberate act of people who clearly attached special significance to dogs. The remains were discovered during construction of the Ostlänken railway line, and the way the animal's bones and the dagger were arranged suggests ritual practice rather than an accidental death. The position of the body, the use of stones to hold the remains in place, and the object next to it suggest that the dog may have been deliberately placed at the bottom of the former lake to accompany the person or community into the other world.
The oldest human site in China. Archaeologists have established that ancient people inhabited the territory of the current Ngari district in the Xizang Autonomous Region more than 50,000 years ago. Research at this location continued for about 6 years. In July 2018, archaeologists discovered the remains of Paleolithic settlements on a mountain south of Geji County in Ngari County on the left bank of the Shikwanhi River. Located at an altitude of 4.7 kilometers above sea level, these settlements are among the highest known to scientists. Zhang Xiaoling, a senior researcher at the Institute of Vertebrate Paleontology and Paleoanthropology of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, said that the Melong Tagfug archaeological complex consists of 3 caves, the largest of which exceeds 1,000 square meters. In 2 of these caves, over 10,000 artifacts of Stone and Bronze Age, including stone, bone, ceramic, and bronze objects, as well as plant, remains. In one of the caves, rock paintings made in ochre were discovered, depicting figures of people and the sun with vertical lines. Preliminary data obtained by photoluminescent spectroscopy and radiocarbon dating indicate that the first traces of human activity in one of the caves may date back to 53 or even 80,000 years ago.
Shiva's gold. In the village of Kovalur in southern India, workers found a sealed clay pot under the floor of an old temple dedicated to Shiva. Inside were 103 gold coins, each the size of a small button, bearing clear symbols and inscriptions. Research has shown that the coins were minted around the 13th century during the time of the Pandya and Chola dynasties of South India. This is not a treasure trove in the traditional sense. Such vessels were often buried directly under the altar, as a sacrifice to the gods or a way to preserve the temple's wealth. The coins lay evenly, layer after layer, with no signs of haste. Judging by the location of the find, they were placed deliberately, not hidden from enemies but kept as a sacred reserve. Some coins depict a tiger, the symbol of the Chola dynasty, while others depict a fish, the symbol of the Pandya dynasty. They were minted at the turn of the epochs, when the old kingdom was fading and the new one was just beginning to emerge. Perhaps this is why the gold ended up here, as a symbol of transition, protected by the temple. Now numismatists are studying the coins, comparing the alloy, the stamps, and the ornamentation. Such finds help reconstruct not only the economy but also trade routes. Chola gold circulated far beyond India, reaching Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia, but perhaps the most intriguing detail is that the small temple in the rural village has survived centuries, changing faiths and regimes, and the pot of coins has lain beneath the floor all this time, right under the feet of those praying. Ritual axe 4,500 years old. In China, in the city of Wuxi, archaeologists have discovered an ancient ritual weapon, an engraved axe that is 4,500 years old. The axe belongs to the Liangzhu culture, one of the most developed cultures in China at that time. This culture lived in the Yangtze River Delta, but when the floods occurred, the people of Liangzhu were forced to leave their capital and settlements. This led to their complete extinction around 2300 BC. Scientists have found 329 stone tools, 73 stone and bone arrows, and many other ceramic and jade artifacts. The most interesting is the axe, on which images of tigers, patterns of clouds, and birds are engraved on both sides. The axe was found on a sacrificial platform and shows signs of wear and damage. Scientists believe that the axe was not used in battles, but in rituals and ceremonies to symbolize power. Liu Baoshan, head of the local archaeological institute, said the patterns on the axe were made with a harder stone tool. This is the first tiger engraved axe found in the region. Now we will dive into history even deeper and find out what our ancestors ate more than 100,000 years ago. Petrified book. Archaeologists from Australia have stumbled upon a mysterious book-shaped artifact estimated to be more than 330 million years old. Yes, I know that not everyone likes it when I talk about thousands and millions of years. Therefore, this discovery caused a lot of controversy and speculation among scientists. Thomas Kaminsky, an antiquities researcher, claims that they found a mineralized book with a metal binding, but it is no longer possible to read it. Archaeology professor Jane Ballum was also amazed by the find, although she expressed doubts about its antiquity. Other experts marvel at how the book's pages have survived for millions of years. Geology professor Ian Plimer explains that under certain conditions, in an oxygen-free environment and under pressure, paper can petrify. Kaminsky believes that the depth at which the book was found indicates its authenticity. However, the question remains as to why the book looks like a modern copy. Could this be an artifact left behind by a time traveler?
Light-skinned, blue-eyed giants. For centuries, there have been rumors about giant people who lived on Earth in the distant past. Bone finds around the world support these myths. One of the most mysterious places with such finds is Santa Catalina Island off the coast of California. Santa Catalina is a small, cozy island near Los Angeles, part of the Channel Islands archipelago. Its history begins with the settlement of the Gabrielino Indians about 7,000 years ago. After them, both Spaniards and Mexicans visited here until the island became part of the United States. The story of young Ralph Glidden, who moved to the island in 1896, deserves special attention. After finding an Indian skull, he became interested in searching for ancient relics. Growing up, Ralph conducted many archaeological excavations, finding over 800 graves and many artifacts. He sold these relics to museums and private collectors. The Catalina Island Museum, founded by Glidden, is known for its unique exhibits. Among them, the skeletons found by Glidden became especially popular. But the greatest resonance was caused by his application for the discovery of the remains of people 270 centimeters tall. According to him, they had a European appearance, blonde hair and blue eyes. One of the amazing finds was the skeleton of a girl surrounded by the remains of 64 children. According to Glidden, the remains of more than 3,000 people were discovered on the island. Most of them were tall, which was not typical for the Indians. In 1913, German-born physician A. Furstenen discovered an 8-foot skeleton in Avalon Bay, along with artifacts including a stone with symbols. But when trying to extract it, the skeleton collapsed, leaving only part of the bones. The press actively responded to such reports. The Ogden Standard-Examiner newspaper wrote about Glidden's findings in 1929, claiming the existence of an ancient tall race on Catalina. In addition, it was said that on the nearby island of Santa Rosa, skeletons with double rows of teeth and 6 fingers and toes were discovered in 1959. Furstenen also heard legends about an ancient race of giants on Catalina who lived before the arrival of Europeans. However, Glidden's sensational findings on Santa Catalina remained in question for scientists from around the world. Most scientists believed that he was looking for funding for his research, and rumors said that the skeletons in his museum were only high-quality fakes. According to some sources, part of the giant skeletons was sent to the University of California and the Smithsonian Institution, where they disappeared into secret storage facilities. Archival photos allegedly depicting these skeletons are controversial. There is an opinion that they are fake, but researcher L. Marzulli claims their authenticity, noting the presence of a 6th finger on one of the hands. In 1962, sensing his impending death, Glidden sold his collection for just $5,000. He passed away in 1967. Today, the question of who Ralph Glidden was, a master of hoaxes or the discoverer of a mysterious civilization, remains open. Unfortunately, no convincing scientific evidence has been found for the existence of giants on Earth along with humanity.
7,800-year-old figurine. In the west of the Turkish province of Izmir, in the Ulukak Mound, archaeologists made an impressive discovery. They managed to find a clay figurine of a female figure. which is about 7,800 years old. Professor Özlem Sevik, who is leading the excavations, emphasized the importance of this site as the first settlement of farmers in the region. This mound is one of the most ancient settlements in western Anatolia. Archaeologists have discovered artifacts here that are 8,850 years old. For many generations, people lived here, building villages one after another. One impressive artifact was a clay figurine of a woman found in recent excavations. Researchers have previously found such figurines, but many of them were broken. This is the third figurine found in perfect condition. There is an assumption that these figurines are images of gods. However, some were found in landfills, making this theory less likely. Perhaps the figurines were used in various rituals associated with important life moments, such as the birth of a child or the harvest.
The secret drug D9 and the zombie army. While Reich ideologists dreamed of ice gods, SS medics were tackling a more mundane but no less sinister problem: how to transform an ordinary person into a biological machine impervious to fatigue, pain, and fear. In 1944, in the laboratories of the Sachsenhausen concentration camp, under the direction of Vice Admiral Helmut High, a drug codenamed D9 was developed. It was more than just a stimulant, but a true super soldier elixir, the chemical formula of which remained hidden in classified archives for decades. D9's composition was a deadly cocktail. Each pill contained 5 milligrams of oxycodone, a powerful synthetic painkiller, 5 milligrams of cocaine, and 3 milligrams of methamphetamine, known as Pervitin. To enhance the effect, synthetic vitamins and specific alkaloids were added. The Nazis planned to supply this drug to submarine crews, sabotage groups, and SS advance units for multi-day forced marches without sleep or food. Trials of the drug were conducted on concentration camp prisoners, and the results were shocking. Protocols describing an endurance test have survived. Prisoners given D9 were forced to march in a circle with 20-kilogram backpacks for 24 hours a day. While an ordinary trained soldier would collapse from exhaustion after 10 to 12 hours, the subjects under the influence of D9 continued marching for several days. The record was a continuous march of 90 kilometers over rough terrain without a single stop. However, the price of such endurance was horrific. The drug caused irreversible psychological changes. The soldiers were transformed into something akin to the living dead. They followed orders with mechanical precision, failed to react to injuries, and completely lost their instinct for self-preservation. The subjects exhibited a complete lack of empathy and hypertrophied aggression. Essentially, the Nazis were creating an army of zombies capable of continuing to fight even with severed limbs or fatal abdominal wounds, as their pain threshold was completely erased by oxycodone. Fortunately for the Allies, mass production of D9 began too late. Only a few batches were produced, which were tested on the crews of Sihun-class midget submarines. Submariners taking the drug could remain in a tiny, stuffy cabin for up to 4 days in a state of complete combat readiness. After the war, the formulas for D9 and the results of the research fell into the hands of American and Soviet intelligence agencies. It is believed that it was these Nazi developments that formed the basis for the development of modern combat psychostimulants for special forces during the Cold War. But the true scale of biological experiments on the new man in the Reich remains a subject of debate among medical historians.
Strange long stone. In the history of archaeology, discoveries occur that are made not only by scientists but also by ordinary people, often completely unexpectedly. Michigan farmer James Brissell stumbled upon an archaeological sensation when he decided to lay a gas pipeline through his ranch. When James started digging, he did not expect any surprises since the soil here was fertile and without stones. But soon the excavator stumbled upon something. Fearing damage to his rental car, the farmer stopped and decided to inspect the obstacle with a shovel. It turned out that it was not a stone, but something smooth and hard. Digging by hand, James soon realized that there was a huge bone in front of him. He called neighbors for help, and soon several more large bones were discovered. At first, no one could say for sure which animal they belonged to. A few hours later, amateur archaeologists dug to the place where the bones were connected into one large skull with tusks. Initially, farmers assumed it was an elephant, but to be sure, they called real scientists from the University of Michigan. Professor Fisher, having arrived at the place, immediately established that these were the remains of a mammoth, and in excellent condition. He wanted to take the bones for study, but James refused to give them up, citing laws that allow the landowner to dispose of the finds at his own discretion. As a result, the farmer displayed the remains in his store, attracting tourists and scientists from all over the country, and additionally selling his products. Ancient piggy bank. Archaeologists working in the ancient city of Adrianopolis in the Eskapazar region of Turkey have discovered a unique find, a collection of 10 coins that are approximately 1,400 years old. These coins were presumably kept in an ancient piggy bank. The city of Adrianopolis, also known as Zeugma of the Black Sea for its mosaics of various animals, has been explored since 2003 by Ersin Selikbas's team from Karabük University. This ancient city is famous for its churches with mosaics and important finds, including fortifications, rock tombs, and arched buildings. During excavations in one of the buildings, an amazing find was discovered: coins from the time of Constance II, covering the period from 641 to 666 AD. These coins, according to Selikbas, could have been used as an ancient piggy bank, probably by a woman of that time. Tiny alien. Just 2 months after scientists in Peru exposed a hoax claiming 2 dolls were actually alien bodies, alien stories are resurfacing online. This time, a premature human fetus with an elongated skull found in Colombia is being linked to little green men and ancient races. However, skeptical scientists proved that the skeleton belongs to an unborn human fetus. The main reason why many people believe such absurd headlines about aliens is because some of the world's major media outlets publish hyperdramatic articles presenting logical fallacies. Adequate scientists and anyone who read an anatomy textbook in school can definitely say that the remains belong to a stillborn human fetus. The so-called alien has an elongated skull, which, combined with its unusual eyes and 10 ribs on each side of the body, as opposed to the typical 12 in humans, has led to claims of extraterrestrial origin. As it turns out, the reporter who broke the story in the Daily Mail received the first images of the alien anonymously via WhatsApp. That's all the archaeological discoveries. While some speculate about an ancient tiny race of people that coexisted with the Aymara people of the Andes hundreds, if not thousands of years ago, research by anatomists from the University of Stockholm in Sweden and Stony Brook Medical School in the US suggests that the skeleton belongs to the fetus of a premature human baby. Pot of burnt porridge. In one of the oldest villages in Germany in Oldenburg, LA7, archaeologists discovered a unique treasure: fragments of an ancient pan. This find tells us about the culinary preferences of our ancestors more than 5,000 years ago. They also cooked porridge. Lucy Kubiak-Martins, a renowned archaeobotanist, shared some impressive details. Chemical analysis of the shards showed traces of grains such as spelt and barley, as well as protein mari seeds similar to quinoa. Interestingly, sprouted grains were found, which indicates ignorance of ancient methods of grain drying. This is the first time traces of cooked food have been found on pottery in Neolithic Germany. The technological morgue of Lake Toplitz. When collapse became inevitable in April 1945, SS officers launched a plan to conceal the most dangerous developments. The center of these efforts was Lake Toplitz in the Austrian Alps, a high-altitude lake that locals still call the Killer Lake. This location was no accident. The lake is 100 meters deep, and at a depth of about 20 meters, a layer of water with zero oxygen content begins, making it an ideal natural preservative for metal and paper. From 1943 to 1945, a secret naval testing station operated on the shores of Lake Toplitz. Here, in an atmosphere of utmost secrecy, prototypes of a submarine-launched missile were tested. This was Project Proofstand 12, the precursor to today's sea-launched ballistic missiles. But the most interesting developments began in the final weeks of the war. Witnesses described convoys of trucks bearing SS insignia dropping heavy sealed crates wrapped in chains into the lake under cover of night. In 1959, an expedition led by the German magazine Stern recovered crates of counterfeit pound notes from the seabed, Operation Bernhard, but this was merely a cover. The real secrets lay deeper. Divers attempting to explore the seabed in the 1960s and 1980s often died under strange circumstances. One of the most famous cases is the death of French explorer Jean-Pierre Dessin, who allegedly found the entrance to a flooded tunnel at the bottom but died before he could transmit the coordinates. According to seized documents, prototypes of hydroacoustic booby traps and documentation for a project to create biological weapons based on deep-sea microorganisms were dumped into the lake. But the lake's greatest secret is considered to be the so-called Iron Vault of Ernst Kaltenbrunner, head of the Reich main security office. It is believed to have housed not only lists of agents but also descriptions of technologies developed during Ahnenerbe experiments in Tibet. The lake remains largely unexplored due to piles of sunken trees and booby traps left behind by the SS. It remains the Reich's technological morgue, holding secrets that some still consider too dangerous for humanity. Ancient thousand-year-old axes. In the northern part of Poland in Kochiewo, treasure hunter Denis Konkol, using a metal detector, discovered an astonishing find: 5 axes from the Bronze Age. These artifacts lay in the ground for more than 3,000 years. It is worth noting that in Poland, independent excavations with a metal detector are prohibited without special permission. Therefore, the discovery was immediately reported to the authorities. These bronze axes, discovered at a depth of 20 to 30 centimeters, are of particular value since such finds are rare in this area. Archaeologists have suggested that the axes may be associated with the Baltic culture and are characterized as the Tautush type. It is also suggested that the axes could have been part of a ritual offering, which speaks to the complex trade and religious practices of the communities of that time. This find is not only historically valuable, but also reveals new aspects of the cultures that lived in Poland in the Bronze Age. In the near future, the artifacts will be delivered to the Archaeological Museum in Gdansk for more detailed study and preservation. 2-meter statue of a man with a penis. In the southeast of Turkey, in the area of 2 ancient monumental complexes of the pre-ceramic Neolithic era, Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe, archaeologists have made amazing finds. A statue of a wild boar was discovered at Göbekli Tepe, painted in 3 colors: red, white, and black. This monumental image is installed on a pedestal decorated with signs: the letter H, a crescent symbol, images of 2 snakes and 3 faces or masks. In Karahan Tepe, researchers discovered a statue more than 2 meters high depicting a man in an atypical pose, as well as a sculpture similar to a vulture. These discoveries were presented by the Turkish Ministry of Culture and Tourism. Statues and other artifacts were also discovered there, including a structure with pillars shaped like phalluses and a stone head of a man. This complex, according to some assumptions, may be even more ancient than Göbekli Tepe.
Bottle of ancient Roman wine. An ancient Roman wine bottle dating back to 325 AD is believed to be one of the oldest surviving wine bottles in the world. It was discovered in 1867 near the city of Speyer in Germany as part of a tomb excavation. The vessel is made of glass and has an elongated shape with a narrow neck. Inside the bottle, the wine is turned into a solid substance due to the passing of centuries, but thanks to the sealed plug made of olive wood and wax, the contents of the bottle remained intact. Although modern researchers and wine experts do not recommend trying this ancient drink, it represents a unique testimony to the art of winemaking in ancient Rome. Now the bottle is in the Historical Museum of the city of Speyer and is one of its main exhibits.
Sarcophagi. Archaeologists have discovered unique tombs and funerary masks that are as much as 4,500 years old, and they were found next to the pyramids of Giza in the heart of the ancient necropolis. Several tombs from the era of the Old Kingdom were found there, the oldest of which dates back to the 25th century BC. Ancient inscriptions and decorations have been preserved in it. In one of the tombs was Pehuenk, a senior court judge and priest of the goddess Mot. He directed the rituals of purification in the pyramidal temples of the kings Khafre, Usarkaf, and Niuserre. The second inhabitant of the tomb is his relative Nui, a nobleman with 5 court titles and a priest in the temple of Khafre. The excavation began in August 2018, and in order to reach these tombs, they had to move about 450 cubic meters of sand. Some tombs were plundered in antiquity but were reused for burials in the 7th to 6th centuries BC. Thanks to this, amazing works of art, magnificent clay, and wooden funeral masks were found among the late wooden sarcophagi, and all this was found near the cemetery of the pyramid builders. This proves that the pyramids were built not by slaves, but by ordinary people who were buried next to their kings. Monastery in Sudan, decorated with Christian frescoes. Archaeologists from Poland have discovered a mysterious complex of rooms with Christian frescoes in the medieval monastery of Old Dongola in Africa. This city was the capital of Makuria, one of the famous African states, which became Christian in the 6th century. Scientists studied houses of the 16th and 19th centuries and accidentally found a church with beautiful frescoes and inscriptions in Greek and Old Nubian. Under one of the houses, they found a secret passage leading to a room with amazing frescoes on the walls. On the walls were depicted the Mother of God Christ, the Archangel Michael, and the Nubian ruler. The peculiarity of this picture is that the ruler bows and kisses the hand of Christ, and the Archangel Michael protects them with his wings. Such a scene has no parallel in Nubian painting. Another unusual fresco is the image of the Mother of God dressed in dark clothes, holding a cross and a book. Christ on the opposite wall also holds a book and gives a blessing. Interest in the history of ancient African civilizations and cultures is growing, and finds such as this one are becoming a kind of key to understanding the past of this continent. Now scientists want to find out for what purposes these mysterious rooms were used and how exactly they were connected with the life of people of that time. Perhaps in the future, archaeologists will be able to discover even more secrets and mysteries associated with this amazing complex in Old Dongola and other African states. It is important to preserve these finds and continue to study history and culture in order to pass on knowledge of ancient civilizations to future generations. That's what our channel is for, to which I recommend subscribing and clicking on the bell so as not to miss a new video. What were the rewards for ancient Roman soldiers? Let's remember the Roman Empire and fast forward to Vindolanda, an ancient Roman camp in the north of England. There, amateur archaeologists made an amazing discovery, a silver medallion or phalera depicting the head of the Gorgon Medusa. Vindolanda is not just a fort, this is a real open-air museum, which attracts archaeologists from all over the world. Hundreds of people work here as volunteers every year. The excavations of Vindolanda reveal to us a picture of everyday life on the outskirts of the Roman Empire. The fort, which stands 1.5 kilometers from Hadrian's Wall, was built around 85 AD to protect against the Celtic tribes. The garrison included soldiers from territories conquered by Rome, including what today we call Belgium, Germany, and France. The fort was rebuilt many times. In its place, 9 layers of different fortresses were found, one on top of the other. Now the ruins of the 3rd century are visible. The fortress walls, the headquarters building, the commander's house, granaries, barracks, and even an outer settlement with shops and a bathhouse. It was in one of the barracks that a unique medallion with the image of the Gorgon Medusa was found. Despite its impressive age of 1900 years, it is perfectly preserved. Mysterious stone structure found underwater off Israel's coast. Imagine, a powerful storm covers the Mediterranean coast of Israel, waves wash the shores, and then archaeologists discover a forgotten Neolithic village. Led by Ehud Galili of the University of Haifa and with the help of scientists from Australia's Flinders University, the researchers are opening a window into the past. The inhabitants of this village about 8,000 years ago tried to protect themselves from the advancing water by building a massive stone wall. At that time, the glaciers began to melt, the sea level rose, and the ancient villages, including Tel Hroitz, became victims of flooding. Millennia after the storm, scientists were able to examine the ruins. They found artifacts of the life of ancient people, dishes, tools for the production of olive oil, flint tips, and even the bones of domestic animals. In addition to all this, they found a giant stone wall made of stones weighing up to a ton. It was protection from water for the inhabitants of this village, but even such a wall was only a temporary solution. The waves got closer and closer to the houses, and people were forced to leave their habitual homes. Mummified babies. Remember the famous pharaoh Tutankhamun? His tomb, discovered almost 100 years ago, still provides scientists with the discoveries. In the tomb, along with Tutankhamun, were the mummies of 2 children. There were no DNA identification technologies then, so these findings were kept secret, and the children were nicknamed 317A and 317B. In modern times, DNA analysis has shown that these two girls, who did not live to see their birth, were most likely the daughters of Tutankhamun. One of them lived for about 4 months, and the second was almost full term. The researchers think that the girls were some kind of protectors of their father in the other world. After all, the ancient Egyptians believed in life after death and took a lot of things with them to the tomb for protection on a journey to the afterlife. So the story of Tutankhamun and his daughters is another amazing chapter in the book of ancient Egypt. The oldest pirate flag. The National Museum of the Navy in Portsmouth displays a unique artifact, the Jolly Roger pirate flag, captured off the coast of Africa in 1780. This flag with a red background sent a specific message to merchant ships: surrender or die. There are traces of gunpowder and charred bullet holes on its fabric. Around 1700, such flags began to be actively used by pirates. Initially, red dominated, but over time, pirates experimented with other designs, including black flags. Richard Noyce, the museum's curator, says the image of pirates created by Hollywood is far from reality. In history, they were dangerous threats to trade and not romantic movie heroes. Each pirate ship captain could choose his own design for his flag, but the skull and crossbones motif became the most popular. The name Jolly Roger likely comes from the French phrase Joli Rouge, which translates to beautiful red, emphasizing the original red color of the flag. Nazis and Caligula's boats. Once again, debates are flaring up online about the legendary boats of the Roman Emperor Caligula. Researchers claim that the Nazis did not destroy them. These two luxurious Caligula boats, built on Lake Nemi south of Rome, were known for their elaborate decorations, including mosaics, statues, and jewelry. After being raised from the bottom in the 1930s, their fate came to a tragic end during World War II. It was long believed that the Nazis destroyed the boats in 1944, but a new book, The Burning of Lake Nemi Boats, offers a different perspective on the events. According to the book, responsibility for the destruction of the boats lies with an American artillery unit that shelled the Lake Nemi area during the battles in Italy. The museum's caretaker claimed that the fire that destroyed the boats was not related to the shelling and blamed the Germans for burning the boats as an act of revenge. However, the authors of the book claimed that 4 American shells pierced the roof of the museum, which led to a fire that broke out 2 hours after the shelling. This conclusion is supported by the fact that other wooden buildings that were bombed also burned down during this period. Until this time, the U.S. military tried to hide its participation in the destruction of valuable historical artifacts. Caligula's boats represented unique evidence of the naval architecture and construction technologies of antiquity. Leave your kind comments under the video and see you in the next video with a new selection of archaeological finds. Thanks for your views. Bye, everyone.